Hi guys, and welcome back to another edition of Cartooning Class. Today we're going to talk about how I improvise character design when I'm sketching new characters in my sketchbook. So for today we're going to focus on just the busts of the characters, meaning I'm just going to be drawing them from the chest up, because most of the personality of the characters is going to be contained just from the chest to the top of the head. So we're not going to worry about hands and feet and stuff like that today, but we'll get to those in a future video. So one of the things I like to do when I'm improvising in my sketchbook is try and create characters that are as different from each other as possible. So as I'm working, I try and use a combination of lines and shapes to create different characters, meaning that I'm using different sizes and shapes for the heads, for the eyes, different ideas for the hair, and I'm throwing in a bunch of different fashion choices and accessories to try and accentuate these characters' personalities. So as I'm working, I'm really just experimenting. I'm throwing in different lines and shapes really lightly and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And then as I go, I'm trying to think about who the characters are and trying to present their inner qualities on their exterior. I'm thinking about who these characters are, and using those, using these bits of information about who they are to help inform the creative decisions as I improvise these lines and strokes and shapes that I'm making on the page. So I don't necessarily know what I'm going to create. I just start drawing shapes and lines, and each step along the way helps inform the creative decisions, and randomly I create these experiments. So I don't know who any of these characters are before I start. I try and figure out who they are as I go, but it's really just a lot of improvisation and experimentation. And when you're drawing from your imagination like this and just creating randomly like this, it helps to draw from observation a lot beforehand. So the reason, or the way that I got so good at drawing these characters from my imagination was by building up what I like to call a visual vocabulary of different accessories and fashion choices and character types that I can pull from in order to experiment with these characters. So when I get stuck or when I'm not sure what I'm doing, or even when I have an idea about who the character is, I can think about these different options that I have and throw those in. And when I say draw from observation, I mean draw from your real life, draw from photographs, but also drawing from other artists, because if you can find different artists that are drawing the same thing in different ways, you're going to have more ideas, more options about how to draw those things than you might necessarily come up with on your own if you were only drawing what feels comfortable to you. It also helps you step outside of your comfort zone, and by stepping outside of your comfort zone, you're going to expand your horizons, and you're going to have more options as you work. So as I'm working here, it's just a bunch of experimentations, and then the experimentations become more informed, my decisions become more informed as I have a better idea of who the characters are. But going into it, if I were you, I wouldn't have any preconceptions of who the characters are. Just act and react to what's happening and let the process unfold, because that's really the trick to this, is one, draw from observation a lot, and two, to draw from a lot of different tools in your tool belt, right? A lot of different options in your visual vocabulary. So as you guys are working, draw from observation and draw from imagination, and understand how the two are connected and how the two together can make you a better artist. And you can't really draw from imagination if you're not drawing from the options that you have in real life. That is true for the characters, it's true for the drawing itself. And then as you guys go, and the characters start becoming more developed, you can start darkening your lines, right? You want to keep all your lines really light at first as you're discovering what you're doing, and then once you're figuring it out and you want to put final lines down, then you can start getting a little bit darker with it. And then start thinking about who the characters are. Start thinking about who they are, where they come from, what they want or what they need, and think about how they're related to each other. They could be actually related to each other as family, or they could just interact with each other in different stories. You could think about what their jobs are, how they could fit into your stories. You could think about how big of a role they're going to have, whether they're going to be a main character or a side character. And all of these decisions are going to inform the creative process. And by the time you're done, hopefully you're going to end up with a whole bunch of characters that wouldn't exist if it hadn't been for the randomness and the experimentation along the way. And then you can take these characters, give them backstories, create character archetypes that we'll talk about in another video, and you can then have a whole group of characters that you can incorporate into your story. And once you develop your own style, artistically, all of your characters are going to start to fit together like this, where they could exist in the same world. And you can just keep adding more and more characters, and the more that you're randomly experimenting, the more characters you're going to come up with that wouldn't necessarily exist if you had gone into it with an idea of who the character was from the get-go. By being random and by not having any preconceptions of who the characters are, it allows me more freedom to come up with more random experiments. So I really like this way of drawing. Sorry, I really like this way of drawing. It's my favorite thing to do for fun in my free time. So I wanted to share it with you guys. Try it out, see how it goes, but remember the best way to do this is to build a big visual vocabulary by drawing from observation. So make sure you're drawing from real life and from photographs and looking at other artists and drawing from them too. And combining that together, when you go back into this and you start drawing more stuff from your own imagination, you're going to see better results, and it's going to be easier for you because you're going to have more options to draw from. And instead of, going into this and looking at the characters and feeling like you only have one thing you can do or only one thing you can add, you're going to have 5 things you can add, and you're going to have choices. And choices make all the difference when you're doing experiments, because you don't have to do one thing. You can, choose your own adventure, if you will, and head down the path that feels right for you and create characters that fit your own style. So try that out. Let me know how it goes. If you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. If you like the video, please give it a like, hit subscribe and the bell icon so you'll be notified when future videos come out. And I will talk to you guys later. Take care. Thanks. Bye.